So the US Federal Reserve has increased rates by as much as 25 basis points and has signaled another two in 2017. And with that, this is more or less in line with expectations. But the real question is, what is the way forward for the US economy and what is its implications on emerging markets like India? We're in conversation with Andrew Freris. He is the Chief Executive Officer at Ecognosis Advisory. Andrew, thank you for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure.
So Andrew, with that, I'm going to start with keeping inflation and job creation in mind. Does the US Federal Reserve have scope for going ahead with two more hikes in 2017 as signaled?
That will completely depend on how quickly the Trump administration puts into action its fiscal policies, because its fiscal policies imply tax cuts and increases in spending, and that means only one thing: more borrowing. Now, if they don't, the markets don't need to wait till Trump begins to borrow more. If the implications are clearly there of borrowing more, then that means higher yields, which means that the Fed is going to be squeezed two ways. In other words, the Fed itself will be increasing the short-term interest rates, but the longer end of the yield curve will begin to go up as more is needed to be borrowed. And I'm not quite sure whether the Fed will be that keen to have the economy under twin pressures. So my answer is it depends completely on how quickly the fiscal policy is put into action. They are already doing almost what Trump said he's going to do, and that is the plan for the abolition of Obamacare implies more spending, in inverted commas, and less taxation. Now, actually, it might imply a little bit more spending, but overall it would imply less spending and less taxation, which sort of contradicts what Trump might have said overall. But the key section here is to say that they are very much in line in reducing taxes. And if they reduce taxes and nothing else happens, it means they will need to borrow more.
So what does this mean for the US dollar? Because we know that the US Treasury Secretary Mnuchin has suggested that a very strong dollar will not be something that they would like in the near term.
Well, it means absolutely nothing, because if one looks at the dollar index, from September onwards it went up, then it stayed flat, it went down, and went up again, it stayed flat. So I really don't pay any attention to that, because if you look at individual currencies, the Indian rupee is doing very well against the US dollar. So the US dollar is weakening, despite the fact that right now interest rates increase. The Aussie dollar is absolutely flying, one of the best performance anywhere in the last 6 months. And this is right after the United States increased interest rates. So the impact on the US dollar is rather complex. Actually, I stopped looking at indexes of the US dollar and I look at individual currencies.
Andrew, is the Fed's political independence at stake? Is the Fed's independence at stake as the political scenario changes in the US?
Well, Trump's policies vis-a-vis the Fed has been that he didn't like at all zero interest rates for a long time. Well, now the Fed has taken the third step to increase in interest rates, and that, in a sense, might diffuse any issue. So I think he will have other fish to fry rather than take on the independence of the Fed.
Andrew, there's a question and perhaps some guesses that fund flows towards emerging markets may start tapering in this year. What is your opinion in this case?
I absolutely refuse to look at flows to emerging markets because they are completely meaningless in the overall performance of individual stock indexes. And also, it tells me very, very little about foreign direct investment, because these are money flows. So the performance of the US dollar versus some of important emerging market currencies, including that of India, points out to me that interest rates differentials are of no importance right now as it stands. And the Sensex performance might be very strong. There might be some flows coming in. But at the same time, the Sensex is one of the most expensive indexes in Asia. Has got a forward price earnings ratio of nearly 19. It's even higher than the S&P, which is at its highest level historically, and has a book to price ratio of nearly 2.5, which is outrageously expensive. So, even if we have had strong inflows into the Sensex, I wouldn't say that that's a good thing.
Andrew, 8-10 months ago, I believe in an interview you had said that you weren't expecting much out of the Modi administration in terms of reforms or pushing forward the Indian economy. What are your thoughts on the political developments in India with Modi's demonetization move and his consequent win in the local elections?
I'm afraid I have an incredibly neutral to even pessimistic view on the Modi administration. Not, I repeat, NOT, not because I expect people within 2 years to change around completely what's happening in India. But if one looks very, very coldly, what is his achievement after 2.5 years of administration was the passing of the goods and services tax, which was not his initiative. I've been observing India since 1985. Okay, so there are piles of things that have been outstanding. All right, so he passed it through. And then the demonetization of the rupee, which for me it was an abject irrelevancy, not failure, irrelevancy. It was supposed to flush out black money. It didn't. 98% of the cash returned back to the banks. This is completely crazy. So it imposed an enormous inconvenience and did nothing in what it was supposed to do, flush out the black money. It didn't. The money came back straight into the banks. So these are the Modi's performances so far. Well, I'm sorry, land legislation was thrown out, reform of the labor market was thrown out, reform of greater competition in the retail and wholesale sector from foreign companies was thrown out. So, I'm still waiting to see those famous reforms that will change the structure of the Indian economy. And I think I'm going to have a very long wait. So good luck to him. That's fantastic. It's great that the Indian people vote for him. They don't need people like me sitting in Hong Kong, however much I love India and however much I've been observing India. But looking at Mr. Modi, I congratulate him. I'm not going to hold my breath.
All right, Andrew. Thank you so much for your thoughts and your time. Pleasure talking to you.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you.